Salutations!
Welcome to the Film Mages Podcast, where the popcorn is our ammunition, the couch is our foxhole, and the cinema is our place of worship.
Now let me see your war face. Ah!
Hello, listeners. We are back.
Oh, we so back. We
Yeah,
so
back.
fucking back.
Very nice. Very tasty.
Very nice, very tasty.
Who are we?
Oh, I don't know. I don't
Who are
know
we
anymore.
Who,
I don't even know.
It's an existential question.
It's
Who am I? 24601.
24601. We're the Film Majors. I'm Zach.
I'm Mick.
I'm Zach.
You're not Zach.
No, you're not, though. You're not. You're actually a liar. No. You are a liar and a thief. You sit on a throne of lies.
Prison for you. Prison.
I'm Alexis.
Okay, she's redeemed herself. She had me in the first
There she is.
half.
Do not forget my name.
We were ready to send her to the gulag, but you know what? She really came through. She's a hell of a guy.
That freaked me out. I was like, what's going on?
There it is.
Wow.
There it is. So, my fellow film majors.
My fellow inmates.
Yes. My co-hosts. How are we doing? What's going on with our lives? What have we seen? What have we done? What are we running from? What are we hiding from?
God, so much, but I mean, it's been Mick's bumping into shit. It has been a whirlwind week for me. I, along with previous guest Jacoby, went up to Moses Lake, Washington to film an event at an air show. So that was new.
Many lives were lost.
Yeah. No, it was like in terms of
Mine in the chat.
Yeah. I was sending a lot of videos of planes.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. I was sending it to our group chat because I was like, I could just send this to Mick.
Yeah.
But you know
that's not
what
as
will
fun.
be a lot funnier is making Alexis see Mick's reactions.
I was surprised that you didn't give anything. Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, no, there was just absolute silence from me in the chat for like,
hilarious.
2 days? Was that 2 days?
Yeah,
it was 2 or 3 days.
You just sending
it was
like
at least
videos and pictures of planes.
Yeah.
And then Mick's immediate like, that's a VR 17 blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, oh my god! Literally every time I opened my phone and saw that, I just like threw it away.
Listeners, really quickly for the record, there were no VR 17s at the air show.
I don't know what the fuck that even means. I don't threw
either.
out some letters and a number.
But for all our aerial or our fans, there were no VR. Had there been, super cool.
Is that a real plane?
No.
Fuck off. You could tell me, you could have been making every single name
I know.
up.
Yeah, you really could
The
have.
crazy thing is I wasn't.
I figured you were.
But that's the thing about airplane names is that they just sound made up, but they're not.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the worst part about hearing that whole conversation was the enthusiasm with which he said every single name of the plane. Like, it felt fake. It felt like a fake name, but I knew also that it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CH-47 Chinook, the double rotor motorboater, that's the one I'm the proudest of. I just came up with that. I know there are Air Force pilots listening like, oh my god, that's a name right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming closer to the 4th, so I guess we can start interjecting some military propaganda. Or is it too soon? No, it's still Pride Month. Yeah, well, let's hold off.
I had enough of that over the past week.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Up in blue Washington, using air quotes.
Yeah. But no, it was a very cool job. I was very involved PA work. I ran camera.
That's cool.
Which, you never really get to do as a PA. I was pretty much a camera op on this event.
Jacoby do?
Jacoby ran the graphics package.
Read the graphics
Ran
package?
the graphics package on the
okay.
live broadcast on YouTube.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Did pretty good.
That's nice.
Yeah. No, it was a whirlwind adventure. But, you might think that resulted in me not watching any films, but you would be wrong. Because I've seen 2 films that I had not seen
You did better than me.
since we last spoke. Right before I left, I watched The Killing, the Stanley Kubrick movie.
Oh, yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
I love that film.
Tight little, hour, 20-minute heist movie.
Yeah.
Lot of fun. Great Sterling Hayden performance.
Which is what inspired Christopher Nolan's use of the clowns in the first or the second
Dark Knight.
Christian Bale Batman movie.
Yes, sorry. The Christian Bale Batman movies. Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
That's exactly what that is.
We ain't no nerds.
We don't know what they're called. The Christian Bale Batman movies. Anyways, so yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Anyways, The Killing by Stanley Kubrick.
I'm going to keep it kind of short because I watched another movie with a heist of a horse track.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Beverly Hills Cop 2.
You know what's crazy? I read your review. I haven't seen that since I can't even. It's been so long I don't even remember anything about it. I didn't know that was a Tony Scott film.
Yes, Tony Scott movie.
That's dope.
You can immediately tell.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think I liked it about as much as I like Beverly Hills Cop.
Right.
They're kind of formulaic movies,
Which is
although
great.
I guess they were probably close to the beginning of that formula.
Right.
But goddamn, Eddie Murphy is so fucking good in those movies. And
Eddie Murphy's is such a fucking gem of like the 80s and 90s.
yeah. I feel like I didn't really have context for like what a massive movie star he was.
Have you guys seen Pluto?
Pluto Nash?
Yeah.
No.
Anyways, keep going.
I really love him in those movies, and they have a kick-ass fucking theme song.
They do.
We need to bring
Axel F, man.
we need to bring great theme songs back.
To be honest,
Yes.
I didn't really grow up watching a lot of his comedies from like the 80s, but I, ended up watching like the Nutty Professor and like We've All Seen Norbit and all that. But I remember
Yes, we have.
like
That movie got me in trouble in middle school.
Is so fun for me. Every time you've ever done like a Rasputia impression, it's always so good.
How are you doing? That's what I got in trouble for. I just kept saying that, repeat it. Like anytime
I've
someone
never
had me do
seen
anything.
Norbit, by the way.
It's
Just so
not a
we're
good
all
movie.
clear.
Sorry, Alexis, take it away.
But just in general, like Eddie Murphy is so versatile because I remember seeing him in Dreamgirls, and wow, like I think I bawled when his character passed away in that movie, just because like he was just obviously in so much pain and like going through some drug addiction, but like Eddie Murphy, like fucking funny, like not just in like scripted things, but unscripted things like his own comedy, but also like a very good singer. And I don't know. Yeah.
I've never seen Dreamgirls.
I don't know if I've ever heard him say.
You've never seen Dreamgirls?
No.
I have, but it's been
Oh
a
my
very
God.
long time.
Hey, Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce, like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, come
I'll
on.
watch it at some
The most
point.
convincing argument in my arsenal of arguments. Come on.
Come on.
I like that. I respect it.
I will just say my last thing about Eddie Murphy is that I find it so fucking like mind-bogglingly impressive that he was on SNL when he was 19 years old.
Right.
That's wild.
I believe he did 48 Hours when he was 20, Trading Places when he was 21, and Beverly Hills Cop when he was 22.
Wow. Busy boy.
Wow.
Like those three movies just like projected him into the stratosphere. The Eddie Murphy movie that I watched as a kid was Trading Places, which
I don't know if I've seen that.
I would be very down
else
to
is in
rewatch it. Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, that one. Okay.
I think the correct answer of the movie that you watched as a kid is
Well,
Mulan.
No, the correct answer is Shrek.
yeah, that's the real correct
That's
answer.
true, actually.
We're
Shrek and then Mulan for me.
Yeah.
But in terms of live action, that was the one that I saw as a kid.
Yeah, add that to my list. He's a great fucking voice actor.
There we go.
Fuck yeah.
All right, well, that's what I've got. What's been going on with you guys?
Alexis, you have been busy. Should our
I
letterbox
did.
be indicative of anything? What did you think?
Last week I saw 3 movies like literally in a row, like Tuesday night,
Fuck yeah.
Wednesday night,
We salute
and then
you.
Thursday morning, because that was the only day that they were playing Babes, and then it's like out of theaters over here now.
Oh, Babes. Sorry, I heard Babe.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you, I took my sister. She is a mother. She is a woman. We loved the movie. But I do maintain that if you are not a fan of Broad City and the type of humor that is in Broad City, that you probably won't like this movie. I'm not like the hugest fan of Broad City, but like it kind of comes close to, like I was talking to my sister about it. I was like, you know, I've read some of the reviews on like Letterboxd and people seem to find them and their humor like kind of annoying and over the top. And I was like, I am an annoying, over-the-top person, and so I feel very represented.
Yeah.
I generally liked Broad City. The only place where it lost me was when they were like, let's have an episode where we have Hillary Clinton on. And I was like, fucking come on, guys.
Yeah.
Fucking...
Yeah, should have been Bill Clinton.
I mean, a funnier figure.
What's up, ladies?
You know, I really like these ladies.
What is this, Broad City?
But I genuinely really liked the movie. Me and my sister were like giggling like the whole fucking movie, like it's so much funny. So that I think like my face was like a little like sore at the end because we were just like cackling. I don't know. I just, you know, I've grown up with like 5 nieces and nephews. I've been in like the fucking birthing room for 2 of them. I have witnessed like 2 births. That shit is not fun. You know, no one's having a good time. Every single movie that I've seen from like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s that has been about like birth, it's either like super tragic because like, you know, somebody dies, or it's like, oh my God, it's the miracle, the beauty of birth. And it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. Life, great. But it's kind of fucking disgusking.
Yeah,
like
it's
women
gross.
do in fact
like
mostly almost every time that they give birth shit themselves, you know?
Yeah.
Like their fucking vaginas tear down there, you know? Like it's not a fun time. And I really appreciated that this movie really like leaned into that like hella hard. I don't know, just cuz like I think there's so many things that like people like to sanitize because they want it to like be beautiful, but I think that it's untrue. It's not truthful, you know? You know, birth and motherhood is fucking gross sometimes. And it just is the reality of what it is, you know? I mean, it's body parts and fluids and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought they were fucking hilarious. I can see how there would be maybe some jokes that wouldn't be as funny to you, but they're very funny to me and my sister, and it must just be like a shared like female experience type of thing. Yeah,
no, I had a feeling that you and Natalie would really like it. Again, it's probably, I'm trying to rack my brain right now out of all the comedies that have come out this year. I think it's probably my favorite that I've seen, but this is what I meant to say. The last episode. Hitman. Yes, thank you. This is what I meant to say when I talked about seeing Babes is it would make a terrific double feature with another comedy that I saw earlier this year, Unscrambled, which if you remember me talking about it, it's also another female-led comedy written and directed by the star, and it's super fucking funny. It's really good. And Unscrambled is a hilarious, honest comedy about a woman freezing her eggs, and Babes is a hilarious, honest comedy about a woman getting her eggs fertilized. So, good double feature. Check it out. Once again, the theme continues that women are making the best comedies right now.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. Continuing from last year's not Girls Trip. What was it called?
What? No Hard Feelings or Joyride?
Joyride.
That would be true.
Joyride was so bad. Hitman was great.
Hitman
was really good.
It's got the fucking juice. Hitman.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Zach's right. Men need more recognition.
We're back. The boys are back. I should see Babes because
it's hilarious.
I watched a good chunk of Broad City a few years ago and did really enjoy it.
Yeah,
so.
My favorite bit from Broad City is when Fred Armisen is the guy who has like the baby kink.
Hell yeah, guys!
And he's like, hey, dude, can you like fucking pay us? Like we've cleaned your apartment, like it's done. Like give us the fucking money. He's like, I don't have any money. I'm just a baby.
I'm just a baby. My favorite one. My favorite one is always when Lincoln like proposes to her and she says, "Lincoln, what do I look like? A child bride? I'm like 27 years old." And I was like, "Yes,
yeah, that's a fucking
girl,
great bit.
Thank you." Yeah, it's such a good one.
Okay, so you saw Broad City, damn good film.
Babes.
Or fucking,
Babes.
yeah, thank you.
We all saw Broad City.
We all saw Broad City. Not a good film, good TV show.
But we're not the TV
But we're not
majors.
the TV majors. Alexis, I'm going to shut the fuck up now.
And then I also saw A Young Woman and the Sea, which was technically a Disney release. Interestingly enough,
Sure looks
it
like
was
it.
about the first woman to ever swim the English Channel, which is 21 miles across. I would say that, again, really good movie to bring my sister to, because it's like, as much as it is a story about this girl who, against all odds or whatever, swims the English Channel. It's also about like her relationship with her sister, who is kind of like her, is in her corner. But it is also like super wild. I have 2 points to make about this movie. One is that it's crazy that like only 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to swim in the same pool as men. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty
it's,
nuts.
I don't know. You ever just like think about like things, like how like, like hangings or things like that was really only like 60 to 70 years ago, like in its heyday, and how like, like we're really not that separated in time by a lot of these things, but we society likes to think that we are very separated, but it really hasn't been that long that these things
My
were
perception
a different way.
has been, especially white liberals tend to be like, how could people think, and how could this be happening? It's like, well, if you look at really the time scale,
it wasn't
here,
that long ago.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's
that
like the people
far.
who believe this, like, or were taught this, like, growing up, some of them might still be alive,
Yeah.
And then they taught their kids kind of the same kind of values and ideals. So it's like that type of ideology is not going to die out. It was literally like yesterday, practically. Anyways.
No, Entourage was on TV like 20 years ago. Isn't that crazy? We've barely come anywhere as a society.
All right. Alexis, you were going to make a point.
I'm supporting her point.
I was going to make a point, and my other point is justice for the regular people of the world. I think when I said it to my sister, I said justice for ugly people, but I mean justice for anybody who isn't like a 6 or higher on like the typical like attractive scale, because Daisy Ripley, great actress, very cute, very beautiful girl, right? I saw the footage at the end of the film of the actual girl who swam the English Channel, and let me tell you, she does not look like Daisy Ripley. Daisy Ridley? Is it Daisy Ridley? I think
Daisy
it is
Ridley,
Yeah. Or Daisy Ripley.
Does not, I just, can't, I get it. Like, we need people to get into the theaters. We need to like push the numbers. So you want to have like an actor or an actress with like a bigger name. We get it for the marketing purposes, but you know what? People deserve to see regular looking people.
A fucking man.
I totally support you.
Man, I have been complaining for a long time that there are too many attractive people in movies.
I think this is a film major's unanimous take.
Yeah.
This is my whole, when
Bring back
men were men and men
mids.
were ugly
thing.
Exactly. That's part of what I love about, crime movies from the 70s.
I was just going to say, The Killing. Name one person from that movie who's a 5 or higher.
That lady with the big old eyeballs.
Okay, so the female character.
Yeah, the female characters. Listen, women have never been allowed to be ugly in movies, which isn't right.
Yeah, it's not right.
But yeah, I think that we need an ugly renaissance, because also, like, to talk about one of Alexis's favorite genres, period pieces.
Dude.
Everybody's got fucking straight white teeth.
It's such an annoying thing for me. I hate good teeth and period pieces, but this brings up a point. I was at Gelson's like 2 weeks ago, and there was this poor woman walked in, and she had like a severe hunchback. Like she was like,
all right, where are you going with this?
I'm going someplace. She's like at a right angle, and she's walking around. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's really unfortunate, and that's not common. But because medicine has progressively just gotten better. But like, there was a time where you would be walking around and half the fucking people are hunchbacks.
Yeah, your back gets fucked up and it's over.
Oh yeah, because you're fucking breaking your back working all your life.
Yeah, I think that's a big annoying part also of like these period pieces where just everyone's just upright and has good posture. Where are the hunchbacks? Bring them back.
Well,
Bring
technically,
back the back.
I would
Hashtag.
say that at least for women that were of enough means that they were wearing like corseted things, that was actually kind of a good stability for their back in a way. You know, it's like obviously it's a little restrictive, but only if it's ill-fitting. And, you know, in other ways, it's actually probably was very good for their backs.
Bring back the corset. It's good for your back.
You like pain? Try wearing a corset.
All right.
Yeah, to be fair, it's only painful if you wear it ill-fitting, like you're doing it too tight, right? Like,
I hear it's the latest fashion in London.
Oh my God! Stop doing Pirates of the Caribbean quotes, Alexis. What else did you watch?
Pirates of the Corset.
I also watched.
That sucks.
Hold for the applause.
Okay, just my last thought on Young Woman in the Sea is that Naiad wishes that it had a character likable like this one did. Because, to be honest, I kind of didn't give a shit about the woman in Naiad because she was such a bitch.
Hot take. Piping hot takes.
Listen, if I'm being honest, I'm never fucking watching Naiad.
Really?
So I don't care.
Jodie Foster is so in it for a while.
Jodie Foster is good in it, to be sure.
I mean,
but, yeah.
Stop it.
Anyways, so I also saw Furiosa.
Hey.
Yeah,
The Mad Max
let me
saga.
tell you, as soon as I saw Praetorian Jack, I was like, this is horrible. This is going to hurt. This is going to hurt me and you, baby.
Alexis's White Boy of the Month has been chosen.
That's so funny. This is not the first person I've heard say this.
Everybody loves Praetorian Jack.
No, I do too, but like, you know, I think he's a butterface.
Hey, what kind of standards do we have here? 1 minute we're talking about we need normal looking people in movies.
No.
Now we're talking about how he's a butterface.
I said I like him there. I said I like him being there.
Alexis, please continue.
First of all, that's offensive. A butterface comment is so offensive and fucked up. But I would say that his allure was the fact that he was loyal and willing to do whatever he had to do to get her to where she wanted to go.
Like a dog.
And I'm like, that's wow.
Like a dog.
Wow.
Hey, don't get me wrong.
So funny.
This is just
So
bits.
funny.
I do like Praetorian Jack. I'm a big fan.
One of my sister's exes once told her, like a few months ago, he was like, you of VTU girls, you like your men like dogs, don't you? And I was like,
On all fours.
first of all, the fuck? Second of all, if I did, I guess I would like them more like puppies. They just follow you around everywhere.
Listeners, with the type of boyfriend she's had, that's a good joke. That was a good joke she just made. That's funny.
It's not true, but it is true in context.
It is true. It's just okay. It's okay to be true. It's like those malnourished puppies you see at the kennel.
Keep going.
I'm like, I must adopt them all. Gotta catch them all.
Fuck.
So we don't love the movie. Don't love the movie.
You don't love the movie?
Don't love it. Yeah, I was kind of bored during parts of it. I think I just like didn't find her. Maybe it was like the pacing of the movie and the way it was like broken up. Like I understand why he did it that way, but I feel like obviously I don't want to like just compare it against Fury Road because like, you know, they're two separate pieces.
But it's hard not to.
It really feels like a companion piece that can't really exist on its own like value without Fury Road attached to it. Because I just don't think it's as compelling in a way. And I don't know I'm still trying to figure out my feelings on why exactly it wasn't as compelling. Do you guys have thoughts?
I think it's a movie I'm gonna have to watch again, but I think it's kind of has the issue that like is built into a prequel where the stakes are inherently lower.
Yeah,
because you know where everything's going, and like
you know the journey,
especially in Furiosa. Like her whole goal is to get to the green place. And we know that she doesn't get there.
Yeah.
So I think that can have an effect.
For me, I have seen it twice. Again, I'd say the thing that doesn't make me so enthusiastic about it is it does have a little bit of pacing issues for me. The third act in particular, just I hate to say it, it runs out of gas. It runs out of gas a little bit.
I think
by the time we get to her, like, actually going after Dr. Dementis with, like, her new arm and everything, it's just kind of like, well, so what's next after this? You know, like, obviously, like, at some point she finds the girls and, like, takes them. But it's kind of like, I don't know. I felt like it hadn't really built itself up to be as meaningful as they kind of tried to make it be.
Yeah, I will say the thing that works for me about the third act, Furiosa spoilers if you haven't seen it, is the way that the stuff with Dementis kind of resolves. I think that stuff all really kind of worked for me. But yeah, I think it does suffer. It also, like, the movie intentionally kind of reminds you of Fury Road, like, both obviously in its style, but, like, the last shot being them going off to the war rig and then interspersing the credits with Fury Road footage. I'm like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that.
Yeah. Let it stand on its own 2 feet. Yeah, I think the coolest scene in that movie was definitely while they were on the war rig and they were fighting off the people and before she becomes like Jack's new partner. That was, I feel like, the coolest scene in the whole movie. Which is to say, I mean, there was a lot of very like visually intense like shots, you know, like where you can like, that's a great picture, you know, but you know, you saw so many of them in the trailer that it's like, oh, okay, well, there's one of them, you know. But the bullet farm, that was a cool scene.
What do you think
other than that?
What do you think? What did you think of Hemsworth?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything like personally for him or against him. I guess I haven't seen him necessarily like unhinged like that, but I don't know. I think in your didn't you really like his performance?
Oh my god, I love Chris Hemsworth in that.
We both.
I think he's so fucking good in that movie.
I adored his performance in that. I love seeing him just go apeshit.
Just get to be a weird little Australian freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I just like, you know, maybe I haven't seen Chris Hemsworth in a lot of movies, so I don't have a lot to like kind of rate it against. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be in order for the world to work, you know, you have to be at that level. So I guess I just went into it with the assumption that he would be at that level, and he was. And so, like, you know, I had no disappointments there. So I would say that that's like high praise for me.
All right.
Nice.
All right. Mick, did you see anything, or Alexis, did you see anything else?
No, I don't think I saw anything else.
Well, based on last episode, I think it was last episode. It might have been the episode before, actually. Alexa said she finally finished Francis Lee's God's Own Country. And when you were describing the...
Oh, that's right, yeah.
When you were describing the, like, uncomfortable level of, like, graphic sex and, like, also how it was, like, a little, like, I believe you used the term rapey and stuff, I was like, oh, well, that sounds intense, but I really like Josh O'Connor, so I'm going to check it out. And I did. I watched God's Own Country. And I do agree with you, Alexis. The sex, again, I'm a big fan of on-screen sex just because I feel like if we get as much violence as we do in the Western Hemisphere in our media, I don't think it should be considered that sex be any more inappropriate than that. I think it should just be as fine to watch people, make love as it is to see like a war movie.
Also, like, if films are to represent the human experience on some level.
Yeah.
Hopefully, most people are living lives where they're having sex more than they're experiencing violence.
Huge part of the experience.
Yeah, I will amend what I said before about the scene feeling like rapey to that. Suppression of oneself and who you are is a form of violence, and so it makes sense that the type of sex that they have the first time is violent, because it's an expression and release of that violence upon oneself, that suppression. So,
they're fighting
like
the
it makes sense for the
suppression,
movie,
sure. So with my experience watching it, I liked it, but I didn't really like the first half. But I think in retrospect, I do appreciate it more as a piece. And here, it's my own fault. Let's just say that this is not a movie to watch while you're trying to eat food, because the sex is very muddy and spitty, just not nice.
They're on a farm.
I'll use the term jackrabbit.
Oh.
A lot of jackrabbiting going on.
All right.
And it's not great.
Who liked Napoleon? Wasn't that one of you?
Yeah, but that's funny.
I haven't seen Napoleon.
That's I do like
it's
Napoleon.
Funny. It's funny. Okay.
Yeah, him going. That shit's funny.
Oh my god.
I gotta watch that movie.
You're gonna like it. Anyways, and then on top of that, I was not ready for the genuine footage of animals being birthed or Josh O'Connor just sticking his whole arm up the rear end of an actual cow, or dead animals being dissected on camera. Just like I was not enjoying my potato curry. Let me put it that way. I was eating a potato curry on a bed
curry is a bad food to be eaten. I mean, at least you're not eating meat right now.
Yeah, no,
so,
yes, that's true. I am trying the vegan diet. And this maybe sounds a little soapboxy, like, hurting animals, which obviously, don't do that. But that wasn't it wasn't sitting well with my stomach. So that was partly why, about halfway through the movie, I was like, yeah, this is not great, man. Like, this is not like it's well made, but I'm not really super vibing with it. But then I finished my meal. My stomach was settled. And there was this very powerful scene, the one that you're talking about, where they're fighting their own, repression. I guess Josh O'Connor's probably fighting it a little harder there.
Just Josh O'Connor. Yeah.
And very quickly you learn that, Josh O'Connor's character knows how to fuck like nobody's business, but does he know how to actually be passionate and be loved and to love and be in the moment? And that was something that his new love was teaching him. And it was all very beautiful. I really liked it. It was a good movie. I'll tell you one thing, though. So, obviously, if you've been listening to the show long enough, you'll know that I do have a girlfriend right now, and she is British. And because of that, I have been exposed to a lot more British accents in my personal life, like meeting her friends, meeting her family, and just, watching more media from that country. And before I used to find it, certain languages, like, really hard to, like, listen to without subtitles, but I've gotten a lot better. Like, now I can watch like pretty heavy accents and I don't need the subtitles. God's Own Country. Oh my
it's stretching it for you.
I mean, even the subtitles didn't help because it's barely English. It's like the slang they're using is like, they don't say thanks, they say ta. So you kind of have to, like, even reading the subtitles, you kind of have to, like, think, like, okay, they said ta as in thanks, but also ta as in yeah. So, okay, so you have to think about the context in which they're using ta. Pop to shop. They don't go, did you pop to the shop? They go, pop to shop. It's just, like, so thick. Not only is it Yorkshire accent, which is northern England, it's country. Northern Yorkshire.
It's a cartoon island.
There's so many accents in such a tight, square, mild. Anyways, accents are very thick, but not as thick as.
All right.
I was impressed. He must be Welsh.
Oh.
Is that a thing about the Welsh?
Wow.
Yes, apparently.
Who says that? The Welsh?
You know what's something genuine?
Actually, it's
Something very genuine.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Here it is. Say it, Alexis. Her face has gone red.
No, I just want to say something genuine about the movie, but like the relationship between him and his father that gets explored is really good and very touching. Especially because it's like not just like homophobia that is kind of being like confronted in this movie, but also a little bit of like ableism, you know, because I mean his father endures like another stroke and comes back and I think it is interesting because it's, you know, to us, obviously, as the viewer, it's clear that, like, now that he has had this experience with, is it Georgie? Something like that. The
Georgie?
Romanian guy.
Oh, I did watch that movie when I was in the trailer working on the
God's Own Country?
No, Chapter 1.
Oh.
Anyways, sorry, continue.
Yeah. And, you know, Georgie kind of teaches him, like, how to be touched almost, and that touching another man is safe and okay. You know, like his face specifically, you know, allowing like a vulnerability and allowing affection and allowing closeness, something that it's like very clear in the movie that he doesn't get from his father, and his mother had like taken off when he was younger. And, you know, obviously the family is very disjointed. And so when his father has another stroke and he's in the hospital bed, Josh O'Connor's character goes and like almost like touches his hand. And then later on when he comes home, he, instead of having his nan, who also lives with them, give
Gemma
his
Jones.
dad like, you know, a bathing in the bath or whatever. He does it himself, and I think that that's like a way of like showing compassion for his father, you know, because I mean, who wants to be
definitely
that old and having to be bathed by your mother again? You know, it's very infantilizing. And so I think that that was not just compassion, but like almost like a show of respect and affection for his father that I don't think had ever been safely explored between the two of them. And that's why it's like later on, like as you're like ending the third act, when you have like this conversation between him and his father, and his father's like, you're going to leave, you're not going to come back. And he's like, no, I'm going to come back, but it has to be different. And his father actually like accepts that. I don't know. It was just, to me, even though everything's like really slow in the beginning, I think you have to like, I think it has to be that way to like really understand the like how banal, you know, like complacency and acceptance of your situation is.
I didn't find its slowness to be an issue at all. I found my curry to be an issue during what I was seeing on screen. Make no mistake, that was my issue with the first half, which is why again I say that like in retrospect I'm like, oh no, like as a whole, very strong picture. And I'll agree, like the end was very sweet. Like after they're at the sheep paddock up on top and he's finally fixed it.
Yeah.
It was very touching, that moment of recognition from the father who's had just this super callous relationship with his son up until this whole time. And you do wonder, like, where's this coming from? And again, it's just coming from the fact that he's just in such fucking pain. And he's lost his manhood as he's seen it. You know, he can't even walk without canes now. And he's a rugged countryman. And so that must be, he's just so embittered. And to see him kind of open up like that was really sweet. But yeah, I'm glad to see Josh O'Connor go hog wild.
Alrighty. Well, I'll pop Babes and that on the Mick and Alexis recommends.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Throw Babe on there too while you're at it.
Babe?
Sorry.
The pig movie?
The pig movie.
Alexis,
I love that
what
movie.
were you saying? I'm sorry.
I love that movie so much.
We're going to have to cover Babe at one point.
Are we?
George Miller mastermind.
God, do we have anything else?
That's all. I've been pretty busy lately. In fact, actually, I tried to watch. I want to see the new The Watchers, but
I've heard bad things.
Yeah, no, I know I'm not going to like it.
Yeah.
So but we were supposed to have an electrician come, and they're like, "Oh no, we're going to be there." So I'm like, "All right, fine, I'll wait. I'll skip the movie," and then they never fucking showed up. So I'm not that burnt about it.
Call them out.
Because I feel like
Rude
when
of
I
them.
finally see The Watchers, I'm going to go, "Yeah, that's not great." But I don't know. I kind of want to see it for myself. We'll see.
All right. Well, I
With that-
think with that,
Let's hop out of what's going on. We are officially into our big, broad topic of the episode.
Queer Cinema Month. We're still in it.
Yes, we are.
Still talking queer cinema.
Happy Pride.
And Mick, what is our big topic?
Our big topic, I thought, it's a little basic, but I realized we haven't really talked about it before. But, like, what is some of our favorite examples of dance in movies?
Has anybody seen Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
Yeah, that.
Alexis, your pick.
Wow.
I've got some other stuff. No,
But I mean, honestly, like, and we'll get into it with this episode, but like, dance communicates a lot. It's actually extremely cinematic.
yeah,
So,
it's like sometimes you
Spider-Man
should,
3.
You should shoot it like that.
Yeah.
But
It can communicate a lot of emotion. It can communicate a lot of what's happening with the character inside.
In Spider-Man 3, it
With-
communicates that Peter Parker's feeed himself as he turns to the dark side.
That's right.
In one of the funniest sequences Sam Raimi's ever shot. I think that one of my favorite
You got to shout it out
usages-
immediately.
I do. I have
The
to.
other one. The actual
oh
one.
my god! Now I'm fucking forgetting the name of it because you've shaken me up. Give me
I
2
didn't
minutes.
shake up anything.
What
You
is it?
shook up
What's it
yourself.
about? What's it about?
God.
He shook up himself.
Oh my god.
Okay, fine. I'll say it. The Mask of Zorro. Antonio Banderas.
I mean, yeah,
with
that's a
Catherine
great one.
Zeta-Jones. One of the sexiest and most passionate things ever
what's
put
so
to
funny is that, like-
PG-13 blockbusters.
Yeah.
You guys said dance in movies, and all I thought of was like actual movies that were specifically only about dance.
Which totally counts, of course. I mean, there's. I'm going to mention a few
of
like
course
that.
it counts.
The one I was thinking
Those
of,
don't count, Alexis.
The one I was thinking of was Beau Travail, the Claire Denis film about the French Foreign Legion officer.
Oh, they
who's,
just danced all the time?
Like, no.
Oh.
He's an incredibly repressed, angry, and violent man. And then the final scene of the movie is him at like a club that's basically empty, and Rhythm of the Night comes on.
Oh, good.
And he just like lets all of the fucking emotion he has been repressing for the entire movie out on the fucking dance floor for like solid 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's not at all where you think the movie is going to end, and it's so fucking satisfying. So, like, if you want what I think is actually probably one of the best usages of dance in a movie, and particularly a movie that's not a musical, Beau Travail.
Which I love. You know what's crazy? I've never seen Footloose.
Oh, that's a good movie.
I've also never seen Footloose either
You've
of them.
never seen Footloose?
That's crazy.
Oh my god, the bit where fucking...
I've seen Flashdance.
I've never seen Flashdance.
I've never seen Flashdance either.
The
Well,
bit
you know, I
where...
had sisters, so, you know.
The
I
bit where
think,
Kevin
my-
Bacon fucking tears it up in the goddamn
I know.
warehouse.
I've seen clips.
It's so good.
He's tearing shit up.
You know
Sorry.
why, too, though? Because the main woman from Flashdance is a lead character in the L Word. So I remember being like, oh, I need to see Flashdance because I need to see this character in, like, an actual movie.
That was also where the careers of Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer kicked off. Was producing Flashdance.
Jennifer Beal.
Which is the one where dance is illegal?
Footloose.
That is Footloose.
Alexis, what's your pick?
What's my opinion?
No, your
What's the
pick.
question?
What's your pick?
Oh, my pick. I have lots of picks, actually, but I can tell you 2 movies that I have seen probably a dozen or so times because I grew up watching them. I really liked them. Number 1 would be Save the Last Dance, 2001, with Julia Stiles and Sean Patrick Thomas. That is like one of my favorite movies to quote from. I actually, while I was at my boss's house the other day, he said something. He called me some name, and it wasn't like derogatory or anything, but it was like he's always trying to like mess with me and shit. And then I told him they call me Snook, the coochie crook, which is a line from Save the Last Dance. And it just threw him off. He's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And I was like, "It's a quote."
Yeah, if you don't have context to that movie,
there was a fucking incredible. I have not seen Save the Last Dance, but somewhere along the line I saw like the final dance from Save the Last Dance.
You know,
there was a good SNL sketch.
It's been making the rounds on the internet the last like year or last couple of years. It's very funny because it's like, you know, it's the same way that I kind of am about like the Phantom of the Opera. Right. In that when I actually did training in opera, when I went back and I watched the Phantom of the Opera, I was like, oh, now I see why people were a little upset by some of the choices in actors or actresses for these things because, you know, anyways, doesn't matter. It's kind of how I feel about Save the Last Dance now that I'm older and I've had more time to appreciate the arts and artistry and talent, that the dance that she does at the end is not very good.
But it is really funny.
It is hilarious. Like when you just like, cause it's obviously like intercut like quite a lot to make it more interesting, but it's so funny. Like I've seen like so many people on TikTok like recreate the dance like from beginning to end just from like what those clips are. And it is hilarious.
Well, SNL had like a Weekend Update sketch that was just that, like a year ago, where they brought out, oh my God, who's the lead of Save the Last Dance?
Julia Stiles.
Yes, they brought her out to recreate the dance from Save the Last Dance.
So funny. Oh my God, that must have been hilarious.
It was pretty good. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. But so like that movie, and obviously like it, between her and this guy who is teaching her, Derek, that is teaching her like how to dance and how to like kind of get back to dancing because she stops dancing because her mother died. Like at the beginning of the film, she stops dancing and she was, you know, going to audition for Juilliard or whatever. Didn't get in the first time. And this guy, you know, kind of convinces her to start dancing again. I'll be honest. I thought clubs were going to be way fucking cooler than they were because of this movie. This movie has one of the best club scenes that I've ever seen in a movie. And, I mean, yeah, what happened to like, what is it, to choreography in the clubs? It's disappeared. Okay. I'm disappointed.
That is the question
you
of
go
the
to the club,
ages.
people are just like kind of like swaying to the side. And I'm just like, where's the two-part choreography?
I love how the wives of Mad Max are like, who killed the world? And Alexis is like, who killed
choreography?
Yeah.
Who killed choreography? But, you know, the movie's good because it, you know, addresses like class issues. She's a white girl coming from like a nice area where she used to live with her mom, and then she goes and starts living with her dad in like a predominantly like black neighborhood in Chicago, goes to a predominantly like black school. So she's like the white girl out or whatever, you know? So it deals with like, you know, race and class, which, you know, to be honest, a lot of dancing movies tend to do. Like my other one that I watched a ton was Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. Not the original, which is probably the better movie.
The pride in which she says
2006.
That's fun. Happy Pride Month.
But the
That's
2006 movie with Romola Garai, which she is actually my favorite Emma. There was a BBC adaptation of Emma like in 2008, and she's so fucking good in it. It's like 4 or 5 hours long. But Diego Luna, I had the fattest crush on Diego Luna when I was a kid. Like, he was so hot. I thought his dancing was hot. And also it does like discuss like kind of like the class issues that were happening in Cuba and indeed like fascism and things like that. So I don't know. You know, dance tends to just be the vehicle of expression with a lot of cultural and historical context in the background. And
Well said.
That's why I love dance movies.
I haven't seen Dirty Dancing either, which is crazy.
I've
to
also
me.
never seen Dirty Dancing.
But you know, one I will say that I really like, I already talked about Antonio Banderas with Mask of Zorro, but has anyone seen Take the Lead?
No.
Okay.
I have. I love that movie.
That's a good
I'm so
movie.
glad you brought that one up.
So, you know,
I used to watch that a lot too.
You have that typical formula of inner city kids are rough and their life isn't going nowhere. But then
Hey, freak show!
a teacher comes in and saves the day and shows them the light and shows them that you can be more than what society makes you think that you are, relegates you to. I'm going to teach you how to ballroom dance.
Yes,
But
I remember you telling me about
But
this.
it's not, thankfully, it's not a white teacher.
It's Antonio Banderas. Oh.
And there are, one of my favorite parts of that movie is you have like these punk kids who, like, one of them, they think they know what masculinity is, and they think they know how to get a girl. And then he's not teaching a class. He's the one in charge of the after school detention. These were all bad kids go, and there's nothing that can happen with them that's going to make them good, honorable citizens. But then Antonio Banderas shows up, and he opens the door for a female teacher, and they're like, "What? Come on, what's this respect you're showing?" And he teaches them how to dance, and it's great. It's a good movie. It's really good. And he shows them what real confidence and real manhood is. It's by respecting women.
Thank
Hey,
you,
man,
Freak.
you know,
I don't know if I'm ever...
A fun soundtrack.
I don't know if I can watch this movie now because I don't know if I'll ever enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Mick's explanation of it.
Yeah.
I made it
I
sound really
would
bad.
say that movie has a pretty good soundtrack. Yeah.
I'll rattle off
Jesus.
a couple musicals that we have covered that have great dancing in them. Both versions of West Side Story.
Chitty
Cabaret.
Chitty Bang Bang.
No. Okay.
The old bamboo, the old
Chicago.
bamboo.
There is impressive dancing in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I just would never recommend that you watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Chicago.
Coochie face.
Yes, Chicago has some great dance numbers, and honestly, one that I watched kind of recently that I hadn't seen since I was a kid, and like, there's aspects of it that are like kind of fucking corny and trite, such as how it deals with like race relations. But the 2000s like musical adaptation of Hairspray, that's like one of the last big screen musicals other than West Side Story where like the dance sequences are like incredibly fucking impressive and like really well shot, and they make time for it. Like I think that movie has a lot of great dance numbers. So yeah, there's some musicals.
There are some musicals.
I mean, Black Swan.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you got ballet in that
Fuck
one.
me, man.
Oh, yeah.
Another movie
You know,
I haven't seen.
seen the original Suspiria, but I've seen the remake with Dakota
Suspiria?
Johnson.
I also haven't seen
yeah,
the original Suspiria, and honestly, I might try to fucking fix that like tonight or tomorrow night.
I've never seen any of them.
I really need to see the original Suspiria. But yes,
Was that an attack like a
I mean, it
The
is
Giallo
very
movie.
interesting.
Nice.
I'm not sure if like the part I saw it like a couple years ago, and I'm not sure if I was like paying the best attention to it or not. But one of the final dance numbers, it's almost like a ritual, like kind of taking place, and it very much reminds me of what's that fucking guy's name? It starts with an S. I was listening to his like classical music, but it was like music from like the 1910s or 20s. Stravinsky. People like rioted originally when he made this like music. Is it The Rite of Spring or something like that? But he
Asking the wrong
the
guy.
ballet that he had kind of, the ballet that was kind of supposed to go with it was like so almost like taking place of like a ritual, you know. And I don't know, it was very was a detraction from the typical kind of like classical music of the time. But scenes from Suspiria remind me of that kind of original like ballet from his music. And I don't know if it is, but it kind of is the same energy.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
A lot of dance movies are kind of just about like transformation of oneself, or like Billy Elliot. I love Billy Elliot so much because that is definitely like a that is definitely like a movie that very much like has this like masculine father who is very opposed to his son like doing something very feminine, and Billy finds himself, you know, transformed by the end of the movie in and taking his own power through the form of dance to become who he wants to be. And I think that is a good place for us to move into our actual
What
movie.
a segue.
Yes!
Wow, folks.
Oh my God, just watching her land that.
God,
oh my
damn.
God, that was good.
Thank you.
That's a
start-
fucking
Thank
great
you. When
segue.
I saw Billy Elliot, I was like, you know what? That's a good segue.
That is a segue. Paul Blart is on his segue
Oh
today.
my God, I
Landing
was
that plane.
just Alexis Blart Avizia Cup.
I'm going to start calling you Sully. You fucking landed that thing safe
God,
and
that was
sound.
beautiful. I love that.
That was great. We should.
I'm not even really doing a bit. That was a good.
that was
a
really
fucking
good.
great
That was
segue.
perfect. I think we should just end the
I
episode
know.
there.
I was just watching you guys make so many like hand gestures at me, and I'm like, I get it, guys. I'm doing a segue.
You're doing a segue,
You're
baby.
distracting me.
We did the segue. That
You
was
know
great.
what? You powered right through it.
Yeah,
you were
I'm
not
impre-
distracted.
That's the most impressive part, listeners. The whole time she was talking eloquently, Zach and I were just clowning over here on
Yeah,
Zoom.
we were
like,
miming being on segues.
Yeah, it was great. It was a good time. So, we are talking about, thanks to the best segue I've ever heard in my life, And Then
Wow.
We Danced from 2019.
And then we danced. Well, I would argue that this movie is from 2020 because it didn't get a U.S. release until 2020.
2020, then. And Then We Danced from 2020, according to Zach. Directed by Levan Akin. Does anyone want to read the description, or should I go ahead and fire off the bow?
If you have it pulled up, go ahead.
A male dancer and his partner have been training for years for a spot in the National Georgian Ensemble. The arrival of another dancer throws him off balance, sparking both an intense rivalry and romantic desire that may cause him to risk his future. It stars, someone else named Levan. Interesting. Gelbakiani and Baki Valashvili, who plays the heartthrob Irakli.
Alexis, this was your pick.
It was.
Why'd you pick it? And what did you think?
I like the movie. I picked it because I have a very long watch list for gay movies, and this has been on there. And I don't know, it sounded kind of interesting just because it was about Georgian dancing, and I just don't really technically know a lot about their culture, so I don't know. I thought it would be. I feel like there's so many movies that we watch that are in the zeitgeist of, at least here in the U.S., I mean, call it a Eurocentric standard, but we have a tendency to like really uplift movies from, France and Germany and the UK and the US, that are, queer movies, and I feel like we hear so much about these that we don't really... you don't get to spotlight the ones that are from other countries,
Yeah.
And this got a 15-minute standing ovation at Cannes Festival in, I think, beginning of 2020. So
That's cool.
There was riots when this movie came out.
I'm not surprised.
In Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's I thought it would be an interesting choice,
Well, I'll say I agree with you. I think this was an interesting choice. I don't know much about Georgia other than it is a former Soviet state and they invented wine. That's all I know about Georgia. So as I was watching the film, I realized oh shit, I don't think I've ever seen a Georgian film before. And I think that really made me, I think, extra attentive to it. Just because I was excited that this was like a new culture that I normally would not have seen other than through like a travel show on TV. Because I do enjoy those. But I was like, oh, I've never actually seen a film from like that perspective and within that world. So that I really, in fact, I would say it's virtue of being a Georgian film was probably my favorite aspect of the movie. I did enjoy it. I think this is a good movie for sure. But yeah, Zach, I'll kick it to you.
And then we danced, more like, and then I napped. No, I did fall asleep during this movie, and I had to rewind it.
Yeah.
I have kind of a little bit of complicated feelings on this movie because I think my central issue with it is that it felt like territory that has been trod a lot in queer films. Like, I feel like there are so few queer stories in comparison to stories about straight people, obviously. But so many queer films that are out there are about like, oh, this young person discovers their sexuality, has this relationship with someone, the relationship doesn't work out, the person has to go away and repress their sexuality and end up in a straight relationship, and the movie kind of ends with this your young protagonist feeling somewhat heartbroken but also empowered because they've learned something about themselves and they've had this love affair. Like, literally, as I'm saying that could describe, off the top of my head, Call Me By Your Name.
The irony that they get so few films and yet so many are the same movie.
Yes.
Very, very funny that this has actually been called Eastern Europe's Call Me By Your Name.
Oh, really?
That doesn't surprise me.
He's like a Georgian Timmy Chalamet, actually, now I think about it.
No, he's like a Georgian Mike Feist, honestly. I was looking
from
at
Challengers?
Him. Yes.
Yeah,
I was looking at them and I was like,
yeah.
oh, this is like Challengers, but I'm not having as much fun.
Well, it's because it's not about tennis.
But, yeah, oh my God,
that's
I
tragic,
love
'cause
tennis.
I love mutual masturbation. That's hot. So,
But I will say, nice.
Very nice.
very nice.
King of the castle. King of the castle.
Jesus Christ, I'm going to get through this. What I am going to say is that that's maybe an unfair, like, point of comparison to put on this movie because, I mean, I don't know a lot about Georgia, same as you guys, and I do think that in some ways that was the most interesting aspect of watching this for me. But based on the reaction to this movie's release, I would say there are not a whole lot of queer Georgian films, so you're kind of operating from a different cultural context telling this kind of story. So, like, I don't want to hold that against this movie, but for me, it messed with my investment with it a little bit.
It wasn't even Georgia's pick for international. Sweden was the one who like gave them the money and the backing, and they were the ones who submitted it for Cannes.
Yeah, the director lived in Sweden, but he was of Georgian descent.
Dual citizenship?
I believe so, yeah. It had a Georgian premiere. Alexis, if you want to speak more on that, I read like a little tiny bit about it.
Premiered in like every major Georgia city and to sold out shows, but they had to close down showings of it like within a week because of the riots and like kind of like attacks on people that were happening. Because there's like kind of like a divide, you know. I mean, so I was doing a little bit of reading. I mean, you know, obviously it's a former Soviet state. So there's, I don't know. Don't you find that in like a lot of those like Eastern European countries, you know, that there's so much context to to their culture, but from the fact that they were once a part of something that was very, very conservative and controlling and fascist.
Yeah,
not fascist necessarily.
The Russian Orthodoxy still plays extremely heavily.
That's what it is.
Which was not really a part of the Soviet Union.
It was the Georgian Orthodox Church that was like the main like protester of this movie.
Right. Yes.
So.
Yeah, I think my one other gripe, and then I'll shut up with my gripes.
I'll do mine.
Is I was not particularly compelled with how they shot the dance and then we danced. We talked in Musical March about how effective Bob Fosse was with rhythmic editing
to a metronome.
And this movie felt like it was kind of going for that and wasn't hitting it in the right way, in my opinion. I think that they would have been better served playing some of the dance sequences out in more wides and letting us kind of see the bodies move a little more, because I felt like there was a lot of cutting into tighter shots that didn't really work for me.
It was shot like, well, you complain about how it was shot or how it was edited?
How it was edited, and also kind of how it was shot. I didn't really like the lighting in the dance studios.
I mean, this must have had like not a huge budget.
No, I'm sure not. But a lot of the like scenes outdoors or in different locations, I thought looked good. But specifically in the dance studio, and maybe it's just because it's kind of a drab space, I felt like the lighting was kind of flat, and I found myself disengaging a little bit.
Well, another movie that was shot in a dance studio was Black Swan. Right now, I haven't seen it. I can't speak to it, but like, what's the difference there in terms of like how they shot it and versus how And Then We Dance was shot?
I think that so to me the main difference is that Darren Aronofsky was already like a pretty like well experienced director by the time he shot Black Swan. And I think that's kind of the same thing with Bob Fosse, right? Like, he was a choreographer before he was a director.
Yes.
And obviously directed also shows. I think that there's a symbiotic nature to, directing theater and then directing. It's kind of the same way with Baz Luhrmann, that he directed opera, before he really, did any of his some of his main movies, and I think that those the intersectionality of those experiences made him like a much better director.
And the ballroom,
and
and him being brought up in a ballroom family as well.
Exactly. Like, one of the movies I didn't mention before was Strictly Ballroom. That's one of my favorite dancing.
I didn't mention it either. What the fuck
movies.
Are we doing? God, stupid.
I was waiting for you guys to mention that earlier. Listen, I will say,
frustrating.
My opportunity felt like missed, and then I said Billy Elliot, and I was like, "Oh, here's my segue. Got to get out of this now." So
gotta hop on that
back.
segue. Gotta ride it. Listen, I will say of Baz Luhrmann's dance editing, I might not love it, but I'm never bored. Yeah. And I was kind of bored here.
He understands the importance of rhythm because he was brought up in dance culture, and I think that's the same that can be said for Bob Fosse, and why his choreography is like timeless almost, because it's so the pacing is
so
to the dancing itself is like so baked into it.
Yes.
Isn't this like the first real feature that this guy's had? Maybe there was one before.
I don't know if Levan Akin has any dance background.
Yeah, so maybe that's it, honestly.
Yeah, he's a screenwriter, filmmaker.
I think an interesting kind of like a way to look at this is kind of like the fact that he does not live in Georgia, but his parents immigrated from there to Sweden, and he spent his summers in Georgia. So I feel like it's a great movie about tradition and about their culture, but it's also in a way an outsider looking in some ways, somebody who is not fully ingrained in that culture, but feels that culture on their back, I feel like it's kind of like the way that I feel about like my Mexican culture sometimes, where it's like I feel apart from it, but that's why I have such an interest in it. It's because I don't want to feel disconnected from it, even though, so many, being in America and being a lot of different things, they want you to kind of feel disconnected from it. So I think it's interesting to think about how the director is looking at his own culture, but from the lens almost from an outsider in some ways, but also just, I don't know. I've seen Georgian dancing before, like just randomly, like through YouTube, like years ago. And I remember thinking like, oh, that looks so cool. One other thing that I thought was like super fucking cool in this movie was polyphonic singing, which is what they did in that one scene where you just hear them all kind of like meld together, and there's like some dissonance in it, like it fits perfectly together, but it's also like very moody, and so it's traditional Georgian polyphonic singing.
I was going to say really quickly, I'm so glad you brought up the polyphonic singing, because that was one of my favorite parts of this film.
Yeah.
The traditional Georgian singing, which is like, as you said, is very, very Russian, but also feels Arabic as well. And it just has that like combination, and it just sounded so fucking beautiful. In fact, I just let the end credits just roll because of how beautiful the music was. I can't get enough of that shit. I just think it's just so beautiful. It's so, and yet so melancholy at the same time. It speaks to this just generations of pain that just seems all too common in those parts.
Yeah, well, Queer Cinema Month, I feel like, has been full of like ominous choral music, because there's also that bit in Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Which bit from Pain and Glory?
I didn't say from Pain and Glory. I said Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I know, but you said this month, didn't you?
Yeah.
What was there singing in Pain and
I
Glory?
didn't say there was one in all of it. I just said it's weird that it's happened twice. It's been this month has been full of it.
Right.
Oh yeah, so Georgian polyphonic singing
No,
is inscribed on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List as an internationally recognized beauty.
Hell yeah, it is. I agree.
Hell yeah, it is.
Completely. Yeah, it was just so breathtaking. Absolutely. You know something else I really liked about this movie? In fact, I think here's one of the personal reasons that I really got a kick out of this. One of my favorite all-time shows was Parts Unknown, directed by Anthony Bourdain. Not directed, hosted by Anthony Bourdain. And I loved how he would just go into households, and, this food would be everywhere because it's a food show. Something that I thought was just so cool about this movie, I love food movies. And this could almost be considered one. It's not the main subject, but almost every scene, someone is eating something, or someone is preparing something, or someone is cooking something, and so much of their community is based around eating together. And I just got such a kick out of that. So I think, once again, partly why I was really invested in this was just like seeing how they lived and seeing how important like these certain customs were to them, and then just seeing these like beautiful like steamed eggplant buns and stuff like that. I just got a real kick out of it.
I think that's why I don't think of it as just like a typical movie that's about like somebody, like some gay kid like finding themselves, because it's like there's just so many layers to it in regards to tradition and their culture. In that, like, it's not just that he, like here in the US, we're an individualistic society, like we're not necessarily like told like you need to take care of your parents when they get older, like they need to move into your house, like you need to take care of them. A lot of times, like people choose to put them in homes, or to pay somebody to be that care provider. But, in a lot of other countries, like that is absolutely not the norm. Like if your parent is sick, you take care of them, or your spouse takes care of them. And every meal and every function, like everybody is together. And so the dancing, as well as like his identity and his family, it's all mixed up in tradition. And so I don't know. I guess I found it more interesting because obviously, like, I don't know a lot about Georgian culture, so it was a lot. It was very insightful, into.
Oh, I was going to say, and I think partly that's why I won't like disagree with you, Zach, on how it's like it's not like the most beautifully shot film, but I think it felt almost a little documentary like, and I think that's simply just by virtue of it being like a low budget.
Yeah,
like they kind of had to just like run it and gun it on the shoulder. But I think because it feels a little bit like it was a glimpse into this window that we're not accustomed to looking through, it felt a little bit more appropriate for the aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm also not sure that they were like allowed to spend a lot of time shooting certain things, like because they didn't actually get any money from the country to like shoot the movie. I was reading through some things, and it sounded like they had to do some of the stuff like kind of fast.
Yeah, I think that again. I think that the style like broadly works throughout the movie. I just think that it's a shame that for me it doesn't work. The filmmaking style kind of falls apart in the scenes that are sort of the crux of the movie, which are the dancing. Like that's kind of where we get our big emotional catharsis at the end. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that those are all like super interesting aspects of this movie. I just wish I was more invested in the story as opposed to like the details surrounding it.
Well, I think sure, like we can always say that something could have been shot differently to like make it more impactful. But I mean, the main point of that final dance is seeing his like how fluid he is, because the traditional dance, and his teacher Aleko, I think was his name, even told him, these dances they used to be softer, but we changed it about 50 years ago. Yeah. And when I was looking it up, that those changes came about because of societal and cultural shifts, maybe to do with the Soviets, possibly.
Yeah. That's why I really liked. I just thought it was interesting at the end scene, very impactful, where he's showing who he really fucking is through his dance, and I really like that you use the word fluid because that has many meanings in that. But the older, probably former instructor, who's not impressed by this at all and feels slighted and mocked, saying that he leans over and whispers, Is he mocking Georgian dance? And then in a huff just kind of like walks out. And I remember that line of the younger instructor who's very mean and hard around the edges, but would kind of in a few instances actually show a very soft side to our hero, Levan, that there was at one point, like the more traditional Georgian dancing was like a little bit more fluid, and how I thought it was interesting. Oh, he's mocking Georgian dancing. It's like, no, I mean, it could be he's just now bringing back the real tradition. Yeah, and that's what's alienating you.
I think the question that comes up for me that maybe the filmmaker is asking is what's the difference between tradition and stagnation? How far do we go in maintaining tradition that we don't change for the better? And
traditions for tradition's sake.
Yeah, and I mean, like, some of that you can see kind of in like his love interest, who ends up moving back to his hometown. And fulfilling the role that he was set up to traditionally, to be the man of the house now that his father is sick, and to take care of his mother and to take a bride, and to turn his back on dance, essentially. To turn his back, which I think is very important to note, that turning his back on dance is freedom of self-expression. Right. And so it's like a literal, like, he's turning himself away. Like, he's shutting the door on himself.
Which is why this one scene I really liked was, so listeners, if you haven't seen the movie, there is a brother in the film who is a bit of a fuck up and a bit of a, can he be trusted with money? Like he's maybe not super on the level.
He's also a dancer.
He's also a dancer who's involved in criminal activity, and he's not going to rehearsals. At one point, he tries to show for rehearsal, and the really mean instructor literally grabs him, throws him out. And at one point, him and Levan, like after Levan gets him a job at his own restaurant that he's waitering, they get in a big fight, and they both get fired. And then he gets a woman pregnant out of wedlock. And it just seems like one thing after another, like, this guy's a fuck up. We don't like him. Then at the end of the movie, a really beautiful scene was after the brother, after the wedding, had heard that Levan was gay through some other dancing, quote unquote, friends they had.
Yeah, guys
Their
in their
dancing
dance
friends
program.
called him the F slur.
Right,
So.
exactly. And he had gotten all fucked up in the face because he had fought them to defend his brother's honor. And as he's laying in bed with his brother, he asks, "Did I fight in vain?" And then Levan just kind of quietly goes, "Maybe." And then looks at him in the eye to show him, yeah, you fought that in vain. Like, I'm queer. And his brother, like, strokes his hair, holds him close, and he says this really beautiful thing. And this speaks to the tradition that we were talking about of, like, look, Levan, I'm married now, and I'm going to be a fat Georgian man who's going to work for his father-in-law and probably destroy my body. Like every other fat
I'm going to be a drunk, fat Georgian man.
Yeah, like and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Just speaking to that's what the masculine role that they've decided in society is to be. You, Levan, you have to get away from here. Not you have to change who you are. Not you have to turn your back on dance and turn your back on freedom. You have to harness that, and you have to fly away. And I thought, and that just fucking threw me for a loop because I was like, oh my God, the brother, man, he's tight as fuck. Like that was a really, really considerate, lovely thing to say, and to see his brother like that.
Yeah, and I think it's a very important conversation for to have occurred between them because it, in. Not that I know everything about Georgian, but, in those type of societies, you're meant to stay with your family until you get married,
Right.
Sure, you could stick around, but, you're meant to stay close to your family at the very least. If you're not living with them, you're meant to be close.
Yeah.
Not to shame them, but it's just how it is. And so him saying that you need to go and do what's best for you, I think, frees him of that sense of obligation, to his family, who he clearly loves, his grandma's fun, his mom, whatever, his dad, whatever. But, he clearly, loves his family, wants to be with them. But, I think when you grow up in that type of society, you'll always feel a sense of obligation to stay with them. And so it's important that his brother tells him, what would be best for you is to leave.
Yeah, this is it's far too toxic for you to purely be yourself, which is why I wanted a little bit of a corny ending, which I didn't get. But I was kind of hoping that the movie was going to end with him and his best friend, I forget her name, but she was the one that ended up crying, and Mary takes him to the final audition because she was in love with him and thought that they're like boyfriend, girlfriend, and then realized who he actually is.
That was my other aspect of the movie. I'm like, you guys have been dance partners for 10 years. And you've never suspected this? Well, come on, girl.
Here's the thing. Here's the ending I wanted. She kept talking about how she wanted to go back to London and how the cigarettes from there are the best. And I was like, oh my God, what if it ends with Levan and her going to London and that's where he studies dance and then she gets to be where she fucking wants to be? I thought, oh, that would be stupid. Maybe it's a little too corny.
Well, maybe that's what they do end up doing,
Yeah, in my mind, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, what else was I gonna say? Gosh.
Can I shout out a quick gripe though, really quickly, with this film?
Sure.
I was pitched like as this movie being a Pride film. It's Pride Month, but like in the woods, like that was just like a guy hanging out with his boy.
Oh my god.
God damn it.
I don't see what's gay about any of this. I kept waiting for it to be gay, and all I saw was just a couple of boys having a good time.
In the Navy.
Wow.
Anyways, that's my gripe. I have to say,
my
though,
God.
I will say that whole that scene.
That's just giving your brother a hand.
It's just it's just they're warming each other up.
Great.
The friction.
Great, man.
When they go off on this like family retreat, which was super fun to watch, you feel like you're a part of it, and then you kind of see there is this kind of will they or won't they tension that obviously you know we all love in our queer films, and they're after he goes out and he's smoking. He's like, oh, he's out there too, and they go out and they sit behind it. Looks like, I don't know, like an igloo type thing, just like a little bit down the
rock.
hill. Is that a rock?
It's just a rock, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a rock.
It's just a boulder
if you've seen this,
in the middle of the forest.
was that a boulder in the woods or was that a weird igloo?
It was a rock. Buddy.
Let's put a vote on Instagram.
two for rock.
But I have to say that sequence, I really liked it. I love how it unfolded. I thought it was super erotic. I really bought into the lust between them. I thought that was a really beautiful sequence. And then they're giggling and they're walking in, and then it kind of the camera pans down to.
Or it tilts down.
Or it tilts. Is it a tilt? A tilt is where it stays on axis.
Tilt is going down.
What if it just goes down? That's it. You're tilting. This is a tilt. This, what is that? We're doing hand
Pan was
gestures.
side
You
to
can't
side.
see it,
can
but their
pan
hands are
down.
going
Can you
up
pan
and
down?
down.
Alexis, can you pan down?
All right, listeners, can you pan down?
Was it an igloo or a rock? And can you pan or do you tilt? Anyways, and the camera moves downward, and you see, what's her name? Mary? The girl?
Mary?
Is it Mary? The girl, the girlfriend.
His partner?
The partner.
Yeah.
You see her going up, like her suspicions are like officially confirmed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the boys are just like outside warming each other up. I don't think they're just warming each other up.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's some other stuff going on. But it was really cool. I was worried that then the love interest, the new dancer, was going to be just like he then was going to get cold feet, and then he was going to completely reject Levan, being like, oh, I don't even want to think about what happens. But no, he's comfortable enough in his own skin, his own sexuality, that they realize there's a real love between them that they're going to share again and again, which I enjoyed. I'm glad the movie didn't go that other route.
There's some interesting things, I think, that I kind of discerned from, like, just reading a bunch about the movie a little bit. Like, not a bunch, but, some. Is that, so, like, the town that, what is his name? The love interest.
Irakli?
Irakli? Yeah, Irakli. Yes, Irakli. Okay,
Yes.
so he is from,
Irakli.
what was the name? It was like Butami or something. So the town that he's from, at the very beginning of the movie, he comes in and the guy goes, oh, where are you from? And he says, like, the town, it starts with a B. And then he says, oh, you do the duet, the Algier.
I can't help you. I'm so sorry.
Fuck. I know. It's like the duet that he's supposed to do with Mary, his partner, Marab. Marab is supposed to do this fucking duet with Mary. He's been doing this duet with Mary for forever, but it's clear to the choreographer, their trainer, that his movements have become too soft, too fluid, too feminine, and in Georgian dance, feminine and softness is considered weakness because the masculinity that they are portraying through these dances is supposed to be like a nail, strong and unmoving.
Machismo.
And I think it's interesting that this guy is from the town that this duet was originated. And so that's why the teacher like asked him to do the duet. But I think like in a way it kind of says a lot about who he is and the choices that he makes like later on in the movie. Like if you think about it, the parallels between him being from a town where this duet comes from and the man in this duet has to be with a woman and has to take a bride and has to be masculine, which is what he ends up doing at the end of the movie. Also, so you know the scene where Merab goes off with that other guy who's gay?
Yes.
That he meets in the bus?
I wanted to talk about this too.
Yes. What did you want to say?
It's not going to be as profound as what you're going to say. So, Alexis, take it away, and then I'll ruin it at the end.
And I have a sneaking suspicion that we might be saying the same thing.
Okay.
LOL. So, I guess Bassiani, which is where that guy took him to, is that town, Tbilisi. I don't know. I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. It's their biggest underground techno club and is host to a disused Olympic-sized swimming pool, which serves as its main dance room and is aptly named Harum Nights, a regular queer club night that takes its name from the Georgian war dance Kurumi. And attendants of Harum Night are actually painstakingly vetted by activists from the equality movement who assess any threat with the thoroughness of a secret service, not a nightclub, in order to keep the space safe. So, I don't know. I thought it was like an interesting kind of thing that this is kind of Merab's like final shift dance-wise. I think you can see like in the beginning of the movie, he's trying desperately to fit the ideal of his dance instructor who is telling him to be harder, to, for your hands to be a certain way. Your hands are too flippant or whatever, And so you see him trying to practice that, trying to be more like Irakli, right? And then you get that dance number where I think he's dancing to Robin's Honey, and he has on that like kind of traditional like headgear, almost like wearing it like a wig, and he's like undressed and he's dancing for Irakli, and he's really expressing himself and doing it like really fluidly, but he's still kind of caught in wanting this traditional role in the Georgian dance ensemble, the official dance ensemble. But then once he kind of like is disconnected from Irakli, he actually ends up going and like finding more of himself by kind of like having this night of just being able to fully express himself in that way with other people. And I don't know, I personally really liked that dance scene in the club. I wanted to go to that party.
That was probably my favorite dance scene in the movie.
Yeah, I liked the drag queens that were hanging outside that like helped like give them money, because it shows like, oh, like this is like a very conservative place, but you there is no place on earth you will not find proud drag queens, and goddamn right. And I enjoyed seeing that.
Did you enjoy one of the greatest owns of all time?
Which was it?
I believe it's one of the drag queens who says, "You suck dicks all day and you're still broke."
Yeah.
Pretty fucking solid dunk.
But I liked was the scene on the bus where Merab first sees Mate, who is the other queer character who invites him into this world, where he had just, had sex with Irakli, and he was feeling confident. He was vibing with himself, and you can see it. Like I thought it was actually a really good performance, where it's like, pre getting laid, post getting laid. Oh, he's vibing with himself, and I love it how he's on the bus, he's just chilling, and he looks over, and Mate is like making eyes at this guy. He's like, "Is this guy making eyes with me?" He is making eyes with me, and he realized not only is he gay, but he's fucking hot. He's getting attention, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
I was like, this is cool. This is cool. Now he's so it just ain't Irakli that he's like possibly like gonna wrestle with, but it was great. I really liked that whole scene. Again, as soon as like he went to like the gay club, I thought, okay, hell yeah, now we're really gonna show you what it's all about. I thought this was a solid film for sure. Yeah, I didn't dislike it really. I just I
I found it slow. I found it kind of dull. And again,
I definitely found it a little slow for sure.
If we extract it from its cultural context, for me, in terms of films that I have seen, it felt like pretty well trodden territory. But you know, if you're getting protested in the country that you're set in, you're clearly doing something right.
Good trouble.
I think that's what it is, though, is that you can't divide the movie from its cultural context, because the cultural context is actually what makes it interesting, you know?
Yeah, I think that was the most interesting stuff in the movie, but for me it did not make it interesting. It didn't inch it over the line to interesting.
With that being your Western perspective of it.
Yeah, no, my own personal perspective.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that this is, again, I don't think it's a bad movie. I just it didn't hit me very much at all.
My counter question would be, why are you not an ally?
I'll unpack that after we finish recording.
Yeah, you know, the film's choreographer actually had to remain anonymous.
Damn.
That's, you know, I as I was watching it, I was thinking, because I'll be honest with you, I did not know about any of the protests. I did not know about any of the response from audiences or from society until we started recording tonight. I learned that from you guys. But as I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, it's interesting that there are so many people in this film, especially of an older generation, that are a part of this project. Like, that's pretty cool.
Well, yeah. The actor who plays Mirab, I watched an interview with him and the director, and he was talking about how he refused this project a couple of times and eventually was like, you know what, it's exciting to be in a film that feels like it's at the forefront of a positive social change, and that was ultimately what pushed me over the line into doing it. You know, the director and people in my life told me that you do this and your life is going to change.
Right.
So again, I guess what I would say is I commend this film a lot for what it's doing, but I didn't personally enjoy it as a piece of storytelling.
Right. That's fair.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. I liked it.
Cool.
Ish.
Nice.
I like what it stands for.
Nice.
Do we have anything else on this film? Alexis, please.
Yeah, I actually really liked that final scene between Merab and Irakli, where you see both of them in a room together at the wedding, and you don't know if you noticed, but like you can see both of them in mirrors.
Yes, that was very beautiful.
Yeah, and I love a good mirror shot. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you do.
But I really, really in particular loved this one because I think it kind of said a lot about the tone of their conversation and where they both were like mentally.
Shows where they are consciously, yeah.
Yeah, because Merab's reflection is right there in between them of this conversation. So his self is still present and accounted for and is showing up in this conversation. And then you have Irakli's reflection, which is on the other side of the room, on this like almost like it looks like a dresser or bureau or something.
Armoire.
And it's an armoire. Yeah, beautiful word. We love vocabulary.
Way to
go. But I think it just, kind of reinforces the fracture of maybe his sense of self and his self in this relationship, So I thought it was a good choice, know. Like from a DP director standpoint, I thought it was a good choice.
I'll be honest. I will say I was like, that is pretty on the nose, but I do appreciate it.
It works.
Yeah, it does work. You can't be mad at something for working.
I will say that, like, in terms of the scene that works for me most emotionally in the movie is the scene with the brother, and the scene that worked for me the most in terms of how it was shot was this scene that we're talking about now.
And I'll say the same as well, and this really is splitting hairs. I will say the same for the final scene where he essentially reveals that, he is coming out to his instructor simply through dance. Also thought on the nose, but it's also, it's really fucking cool. It told me that, and I liked how this was communicated non-verbally.
Yeah, that's a movie.
That was really cool.
Giving you what you want.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially a movie around dance.
To Billy Elliot in a way, because they kind of have that same kind of climax. I mean, except for in Billy Elliot, that dance scene where he confronts his father is kind of at the beginning of the third act, or towards the middle of the third act. Whereas this is obviously the conclusion. But I don't know. I loved it because it was just a proclamation of his choice to be himself. And I mean, dance to me is freedom. I feel that dance is the way that you lose yourself in it. It has a sense of freedom, and in some ways, for some people, it is freedom for them. I do also just love the fact that there are duets in this. I think I've told you guys before that when I did singing, doing a duet with somebody and it going well feels like falling in love. And I think the same can be said of dancing, when a duet is going well, it feels like falling in love. So I think that's why I always really appreciate movies that have dance, and especially, between the characters,
Another thing I'll add, though, on top of the dance, that end scene where he comes out through dance, is it reminded me something that is easy to forget now, but there's something about coming out and being gay that is very punk rock. It is a punk rock thing to do.
Yeah, you're sticking it to the man.
Sticking it to the man. It's against the grain. It's against the establishment, and I thought that idea because when Merab walks into the audition or the tryout, whatever, the other dancer is standing at attention and is then allowed, after the instructor gives permission, to leave, and then turns around and makes a face at Merab because he thinks he fucking knows everything about him. When Merab finishes, he turns around and walks out
the fucking door.
He does not wait to be let out. He is taking agency, and he also did a very sexy walk, and it was very punk rock of him.
There's something very interesting in that. I mean, I think at one point in our conversation, you talked about how Aleko is the mean dance instructor.
He has a hardness to him.
All dance instructors do.
He has a hardness to him.
As someone who did dance, all dance instructors do.
They're mean.
Yeah, because they have to generate a... it's
fear.
Not just camaraderie that you have in there. You have to generate a sense of competition with people in order to kind of bring them up, you have to pit them against each other sometimes. Right. And also he's...
It's like what we do on this show.
Yeah.
He's not being mean by telling him that this is not how you dance this. He's telling him what this is in the, because there's a greater ensemble that they could be a part of if they are good enough, And so he's not telling him to be mean. He's telling him so that he knows what to change, Yeah. And obviously that doesn't work for Merab, as a person or a character,
Yeah. I will say I didn't dislike the instructor. Again, I like that there were moments where he was being for example, and he was like, oh, I've heard that, you've been coming in early and you've been practicing with Rockley. And he goes, yes. It's like, oh, so you're learning from someone better than you. He goes, yes. Mm-hmm. And he almost gives a nod of approval, as in, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to train with people that are better than you. And I do think that in that end scene, perhaps I'm projecting. I have no idea what's actually going on in that character's head. But the instructor, he's kind of looking a little defeated after Merab. He gives the best fucking performance he's ever given, right to him, and then he walks out. he looked a little defeated, but I also read in his eyes a look of respect. Like that was very, in his world, if you want to use his own language, masculine. That he would fucking drive home like a fucking nail the point of who he actually is, and he's going to go off and be himself. And in that, there is something to respect. Perhaps I'm projecting, but I read that on his face.
I don't think so. I think because all dance is telling a story, right? Mm-hmm. But especially in this traditional world of Georgian dancing, all of their duets, all of their dances, like they have a story behind them. And so I found it really interesting that despite them dismissing Merab multiple times, the guys who were playing the drums, the guy who was playing the drum,
they kept going,
kept coming back in for him to dance to. And then even the guy who plays the accordion also joined in at one time. And so I'm not exactly sure how to put into words like the significance of that, but it felt somewhat significant. And I felt that the respect that you're talking about with Aleko is there's not just one way to be a man, right?
That's right, Zach.
No, there's only one way. It's where you work yourself to death. At least that's in America.
We understand that, right? And there's not just one way to be a man, and that is the story that Merab is telling his instructor, is that this, not just like this is who I am as a queer man, but this is who I am as a man. Yeah. I have chosen to be softer and feminine where you have tried to mold me into a nail, like this is in defiance of not just you and this company, but this is in defiance of our entire culture and this tradition
and the structure.
And I think that that's really fucking cool, because
it's punk rock.
If we never, it's punk rock. If we never break tradition, we never create anything new.
Yeah. When I was in dance class, the only story I was telling my instructor with my dance is that I fucking sucked at ballet. So this was a lot cooler than that.
Yeah. I mean, like take for instance, the Impressionists, people fucking, some people fucking hated their paintings because they weren't done in the original style, like the traditional style of painting,
Yep.
So
Van Gogh was considered a fucking failure until like after his death, and then it's like, oh wow, he's one of the best painters ever.
And those paintings are like such an important part of history now, but that never would have happened if people hadn't, said to themselves like, I just want to try something new. And what's so wrong with that?
The revolutionaries are often derided, not celebrated in their time. And that's a lot what this movie's about, breaking the mold. You know what, Alexis? I like this movie. I didn't love it, but I really did like it. I enjoyed it. But I have to say, through our conversation, I think I like it more.
I've found more to respect and appreciate for sure. I don't know if this is a movie that I will return to, but I will say I like that we're highlighting a film that's not rated from a country where I had never seen a movie set there before.
Yeah.
Yes. I would also like to note for our dear listeners that if you liked this movie, or even if you didn't like this movie, or if you didn't watch this movie, this director actually has a new movie out, and it's in the festival circuit right now, and it is called Crossing.
Yes.
Yes.
I saw a trailer for that before The Dead Don't Hurt. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Did you watch that movie?
Yes.
The Dead Don't Hurt?
Yeah, we talked about this last time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. The Western.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know where my mind was just then. That's
I don't know either. It's not what we're talking about.
But yeah. Well, final thoughts. Is there anything else we'd like to add about And Then We Danced? Anything we'd like to say to close it out?
I've said my piece.
Yeah. Being yourself is punk rock. So
goddamn right.
Keep on it, guys.
Yeah. There's more than one way to be a man. There's more than one way to be a human being.
And being gay is punk rock.
That's right.
Well,
can that be like our Pride themed T-shirts? The Film Majors merch is just that quote just there.
Being gay is punk rock.
Being gay is punk rock.
There's more than one way to be a man. There's more than one way to be a human.
being gay is punk rock.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be, you know what? Yeah, listen, you all want merch. We'll get right on it.
I've hit so many people. That's not true.
Yeah, fuck off. Fuck off. No.
But yeah, no, this was, again, we continue pushing the ball up this very, very beautiful hill of just great independent cinema for Pride Month. It's dope as fuck.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And
we're all looking at you, Zach.
it is now my pick.
It's Zach's pick.
And,
Finally.
You know, I believe...
It's going to be a Roland Emmerich film, isn't it? You son of a bitch.
Roland Emmerich is gay.
That's right.
But I am not going to pick Roland Emmerich's widely derided Stonewall film.
Independence Day 2.
Yeah, I'm not picking Independence Day Resurgence. No. I think...
That is a good pick of not picking that movie.
Thank you. That we will be staying quite contemporary, but after 3 fascinating international pictures, we're coming back to America, baby. And we are going to be discussing Jane Schoenbrun's new release, I Saw the TV Glow. It's
I'm so excited.
Movie that is starring Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne.
Helena Howard. Big fan.
All right. It is a PVOD rental, so it will be more to rent than your typical movie that you're renting. Or if you are lucky enough to have it playing in a theater near you, you can go see it in a theater.
Tight.
This is Jane Schoenbrun's sophomore feature. We covered their first feature, We're All Going to the World's Fair, during our 2022 in review month. And I'm really excited to talk about their development as a filmmaker and technically the first trans text we have covered.
Nice.
I mean, there are aspects of the trans experience in Paris is Burning, but this is the first true blue movie about being trans. So I'm very excited.
But that's only because we haven't covered Splice yet.
And we never will.
Womp.
But yeah, that's where you can find our next film. And if you want to find us, the Film Majors, you can find us at Film Majors Pod on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok. And you can find us on YouTube.
Like, comment, subscribe.
The Film Majors. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on whatever podcatcher you follow people on. And we will see you next week for our final film of Queer Cinema Month. There's kids throwing balls at our windows now, so we should probably
Which
go.
is very punk rock.